All right, Mike. Good talk about the QB wide receiver tandem. Let's talk some recruiting.
Mm.
Auburn has been really busy of the past several weeks. They've been having official visitors coming in over the past several weeks. Got a big weekend this weekend. Juju, who we mentioned, is expected to be here on an official visit. A few guys already committed to Auburn. Are expected to be in town with him. Auburn is ready to roll out the red carpet for Juju. Recently, over the past almost week or so, Auburn received three commitments. One from four-star cornerback Donovan Starr, four-star based on three's rankings. Broderick Scholl, offensive tackle. We're getting tackles, Mike. Imagine that. We're
Mm.
getting tackles.
Offensive line.
Broderick Scholl committed over the weekend, and this week, athlete, three-star athlete, according to On Three, Bryce Dees, who's projected to play out the linebacker, secondary, star, wherever they need him on defense, but he was the recent pickup. Auburn currently has a ninth ranked recruiting class, according to On Three, eighth, according to 247. Mike G, I'm going to ask you one question, and I'm going to ask you a follow up. Can Hugh Freeze and staff, are they going to go back to back in terms of top 10 recruiting classes in his first two seasons at Auburn?
Yes, they have to.
Mm,
That's it. You fall out of the top 10, it's because something went terribly wrong. Think about it. Think
okay.
about you went like top 10 on hope. Come to Auburn because we got hope. Now, this year will be about, again, we talked about a proof of concept. So, yes, I think that they're going to be top 10. They have to be. He's got to keep this thing moving the right direction. And the base of talent that he has to work with that fits his system, he's got to continue to recruit that. You still got work to do on D-line and O-line. He's got to shore up the trenches, and he's got to find his quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, is it Walker White? Is he already on campus? Well, all the Juju hype suggests that they may have seen something so far that makes them want to go after a guy who, again, the commitment you're going to have to make to Juju means he starts. This is where college football is going, right? We practically are going to have salary caps. And when financial commitments are made to guys similar to the pros, that guy's going to play. He's going to get the first shot. And Hugh Freeze is going to have that sort of money committed, I think, to a quarterback if he feels like they're transcendent and he can take them to the next level. They think Juju Watkins is that guy. I mean,
Lewis, actually.
Juju Lewis, I keep saying Lewis, right? Like they keep saying they think that he's that guy. Like, I don't know, man. We just have to see. Like, but I do think it's top 10. I think they go back to back. I keep saying Juju
And I think
Watkins.
it's crazy too that last year Walker White's commitment to Auburn over Clemson was a big deal at the time, Mike, because we were not doing things. We would do that once in every blue moon, but to come back in the following year, and I'm not saying that Auburn is going to get. I'm not as confident as our guy Zach Blackerby over there Locked On. I'm not saying that I feel confident that we get Juju, but to be in it for a guy who's being recruited or committed to USC a year after beating out Clemson for a big time QB, really, this is kind of unprecedented territory for Auburn, because even during the championship year or years that Auburn had, when you had Gus in the picture, we wasn't in the picture like this for big time QB talent.
Yeah. Look, NIL has changed the game. I think that Hugh Freeze, they hired him primarily for his recruiting prowess, so this should be no surprise. I see you guys in the comments. Like I said, I have been watching a lot of women's basketball. Juju Watkins is the best player over there at USC. So yeah, I didn't give him a sex change. I'm sorry. And transitioning, man. So yeah, Juju Lewis is the guy that they're going after, and if you can get guys like that in, I think it says something about your program, but he's not coming here unless you have something to show. Now, I've talked to some guys who have left the program about like what their experience was being re-recruited to other programs, and what people are selling right now is proof of concept to guys that they want out of the portal and out of high school. This is what look at what we did, and this is how you fit into it. Right now, Hugh Freeze doesn't have that. He's got to create Caesar some semblance of that this year.
Right.
Right? He's got to create some semblance of that, and that's what I think. I think that he's going to try to do this year. He's going to try to create enough on the field to say, "Look how many times we threw the ball, and we completed it at whatever percentage. I think you can come in, and you could be the guy that if we get 400 yards, will make it to New York."
Right.
So the system has to take the next step. Last year, again, it was like, give me time, give me time, give me time. This year it's got to be it's still going to be give me time, but you got to show a little bit more on the field.
You do have to show a little bit more. I agree with that. But Mike, I think the fact that you have an open position at the QB spot the year he comes in is major. The fact that you get to compete for a job at a Power 5 SEC school, that's a big deal, in my opinion. And it's not too far from home, which means your family gets to see you compete. They get to see you assuming you come to Auburn, assuming you win the job, you get to play for an SEC school close to home.
Yeah.
That's a great sales pitch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, to your point, you have to show that this offense is heading in the right direction. Year 2, I don't know how Auburn continues to be in the picture with some of these top elite recruits if you're not showing proof of concept on the field.
Yeah, it's just so important. Again, recruiting, with the guys that they have in, you're getting guys on campus. We're hearing from guys that once they get on campus, the aura, the feeling that is the Plains is definitely helping. But ultimately, it's going to come down, once you get past that barrier, it's going to come down to NIL opportunities, and not really more than, but at least equal to the top programs, so that you can take that out as a factor. And then then it's just system. It's just, how do I fit into what you're trying to do? I think that Jay Fair got out of here because he saw that the slot receivers are not going to be very featured at Auburn next year. That's, at least maybe that was his feeling. So you go someplace. He ended up at USC, where they just run a bunch of 10 personnel.
Right.
And Lincoln Riley's able to say, if you come here, you're going to be on the field like every play, because we ran like 500 plays out of 10 personnel last year. I asked Hugh Freeze this question, Caesar. I asked him this question during my sit down with him about, again, you guys ran a ton of 12 personnel last year. How much can fans expect you to expand the offense some? He knows that they have to do it, but the reality is that if Peyton doesn't take the next step, you may be stuck in 12 personnel.
Right.
Right? If the offensive line struggles, you may be stuck in 12 personnel, trying to max protect and get the ball out to Cam and Lambert Smith. And maybe Perry, depending on how it goes. I think we talked about it. Remember, they talked about the first 3 out this summer, and it was Cam, Lambert Smith, and Robert Lewis.
Yes.
So Lambert Smith's playing on outside. We know Cam's playing on outside. That means that they took Robert Lewis from where he was playing this spring and moved him to the slot. He's a guy that you can move around. He's versatile, and I think that he'll do well here. But those are your 3 guys that are going to hit the field, and you just have to find the production for those guys this year. I think they can do it, Caesar. I think that they can do it, and I expect him to show a lot more on the field than we saw last year.
How do you feel? It's good to see Hugh Freeze not just getting guys at offensive line, but he's getting quality guys. Again, I mean, Auburn, and they needed to go hard after offensive linemen in this recruiting cycle, and they're doing just that. That has to set up great for the future at Auburn in terms of offensive line, building an offensive line built for I mean, again, if you're going to bring in this talent, you gotta have some guys blocking for for the QB,
Go,
right? In
go,
addition to guys to throw to.
yeah, going back to the era of Bo Nix, right? If you listen to the fans, if he had just had the offensive line, he would have broke every Auburn record ever. So, Hugh Freeze,
Well, he needed an offensive coordinator
yeah, he
that
needed a
wasn't
lot.
him.
He needed a head coach
Yeah,
as well too, most of that time.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the you do have to solve it in the trenches, and I think that's the subtle difference between like the Missouris and the Georgias right now, is they're consistently stacking their lines on both sides of the ball. Now, once upon a time, I think under Hugh Freeze, they had the land shark defense, man. Like they used to get after it back in the day.
Yeah.
And last year they did really, really well with what they were given. So I'm a little worried about D line, but it's nice to see him stacking the O line here for the future because it's been tough sledding there, and I think that you have to afford your quarterbacks some protection to be able to learn, especially if you're going to start a young guy.
I think Hugh Freeze is doing a good job with D line too out of high school. I think the problem with D line has just been depth issues, and when will these young guys take that step forward to be an anchor on the defensive line? Right. I think
Yeah,
Hugh Freeze just has come at a time where it's difficult to get dudes out of the portal at defensive line. It
yeah,
really is. But I think he has done that, and I'm curious to see how those guys perform.
yeah. Look, yeah, we talked about this on a previous show. We talked about pass rush and solving the pass rush issue. You got to find edge guys. You got to find guys who can clog the middle and stop the run. Yeah, Auburn has some work to do there. Now, who steps up this year? Well, on our last show, we talked about the guys coming in the incoming class, guys like Malik Blockton, and I think that those guys can really, really do some damage. But on the offensive side, Connor Liu takes the next step,
Okay.
maybe, right? Continues to improve, and then you got to bring in guys behind him. It never ends on offensive line. And at some point, maybe that culminates in a cohesive offensive line that has a ton of starts together. That you can say that's your year. Remember when Cam chose to come to Auburn, one of the reasons he chose Auburn was an extremely senior offensive line.
Sure.
And he ran for 1,400 yards behind them. The next year, Russell Wilson said no to Auburn because that offensive line was gone.
Right.
And it went to Wisconsin where they had the extremely senior offensive line. So it does matter. And even for the better quarterbacks, man, they want to play behind a line that will afford them some time to get it. And I think that if that's part of your sell to Hugh Freeze, is look at the line I'm bringing in. You want to
Yeah.
play behind these guys for the next 2 to 3 years.
Hmm. I mentioned top 10. Do you think Auburn can get as high as top 5 this recruiting cycle?
Yeah, like top 5 is about the 2 big 5 stars that you bring in. Top
Yeah.
5 is like,
You
okay,
you 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 almost have to get. I
who the
mean, you have Julian Lewis. I think you have the 5-star wide receiver out of Mississippi that they've been talking about. I think
right?
he came in on an official visit a few weeks back. Um, there's a few other kids out there, but again, you're hitting on 2, maybe even 3 5 stars in this class,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
think Auburn can get one. I think Auburn can definitely get one, but you almost are not missing on your 5-star prospects.
Yeah, I mean, top 5 is in today's
That's
college
major.
football is like, 6, 7, 8 top 100 kids, and a crown jewel of the class.
Yeah. Yeah.
I define crown jewel as top 15 kid. Cam
Yeah.
Coleman was absolutely a crown jewel of last year's class, top 5. And
Yeah.
can they do that back
For
to back
those
years? That
types
would
of
be unprecedented.
programs, you are getting into you're in the college football playoff talks regularly. Like you're a team that's almost a given. You're competing. You're Georgia,
Yeah,
right? You're what Texas appears to be becoming. You're what Alabama has. Like you're getting into that where you're in the picture year in and year out, and kids want to be a part of that
yeah.
to be in that top 5.
You only get there if you can stack. You get that again. You got that recruiting class that got it going. Now you got to add some wins and some production to that, and you build on
Right.
that every year, and you just keep. And then on the tail end of that, you get guys to the NFL.
Correct.
And once you start doing that, you can build a pipeline of kids that come through your program and help you just keep the party going every year.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, Georgia was just a few plays away from three-peating. I will die on this hill. If they had made this playoff, I think they would have ran roughshod through everybody. But Saban gave Kirby his last little parting gift in that SEC championship game, just to remind him who Daddy is. And but if they had gotten by them, it's hard. And the way they've stacked talent there is incredible.
Yeah.
Truly, the only other coach we've seen do it to that level was Saban.
Right.
And he feels like NIL neutralized his recruiting message. So he had, screw it, I quit. You know, can Hugh Freeze get to that level? Because if you ask him, he believes that's the only way to win championships here is to recruit at a high level from high school. He doesn't think that the portal is sustainable. He said, I asked him this on the court after Auburn won the SEC tournament in basketball up in Nashville. I turned to him, I said, Coach, when will we be celebrating your SEC championship? Look me dead in my eyes, said, I need 2 more recruiting classes. 2 more. So that's this one and another one.
Yeah.
You have to build it, and the only way to get there is to take the guys you have, develop them, produce results on the field that show that you're clearly moving the right direction, and then recruit the next class. Your message should get stronger every year the more you produce on the field. So what does that look like this year? Well, Auburn has, to me, one of the hardest road schedules in the country. Hear me out. Top 5 Georgia, if not the number 1 team in the country, on the road. Right? Top 10 Missouri on the road. Top 25 Kentucky on the road. Right? Well, probably will be top 5 Alabama on the road. Find a way to win 2 of those games, and you're looking real good, even if it's just Missouri and Kentucky. And you're looking really good in recruiting.
I'll take it, Mike. I'll take it.
Yeah, if your only losses are Georgia and Alabama, you're Ole Miss last year. Those are your only losses sitting there at the end of the season. You're Ole Miss, and you produced quite a bit, and you ran through the rest of your schedule. That will help the recruiting message quite a bit. We're on the cusp in year 2. I think that Freeze can do it, but they've just got he got rid of his coordinators. Ron Roberts didn't. He didn't have a production issue with Ron Roberts. I think it was a messaging issue there and some other things going on behind the scene. But you obviously had a mess with Philip Montgomery. If he solved that and the alignment is there, I think that they can take these guys and they can move that needle toward 8, 9, 10 wins, and the recruiting message gets stronger.
Indeed. Well, good talk there.
For full episodes, check out the Midweek Report, going live on the War Report's YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time Wednesday nights. Until the next time, War Eagle.